Hello, welcome to another episode of Seeking Mount Parnassus. I am Derek.
And I'm Katana.
Today we're going to be talking about, I have no idea.
We have some idea.
Oh yeah, I do have some idea. My mistake.
The theme is horse slave revolt.
Are you shoveling poop right now? Are you washing the dishes of the white man? Are you sweeping the floor of the rich aristocrat? Are you carrying the groceries out to the Mercedes? And then at the end of your shift, are you getting into your Honda Accord 1991 and driving it with the clutch burning, the exhaust fuming, the steering wheel shaking because the tires are not in alignment? This episode is for you. We're part of the horse slave revolt. We're starting a union.
Yeah.
We're unionizing the mass of the earth against the oppressive nature of what it means to be alive right now on the planet.
Yeah, we felt like this was a fortuitous time to discuss this because the big conjunction is coming up. Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus happens on Saturday, April 20th, 2024. Yes. That's just a few days from now. And right now, the two planets are only 1 degree apart. So it's already in play. Mm-hmm. And with the Taurus energy connects to animals, land, nature, the earth. And Uranus is absolutely the planet of revolt or uprising.
The awakener.
Exactly.
To all the Nepalese listeners, the listeners in Ukraine, the listeners in Indonesia, Guatemala, Argentina, Ecuador, Iraq, Erbil. If you're listening in Erbil and you're a member of one of the 3-letter agencies, perhaps, or maybe you're a former SF guy who's laying on his cot right now reading Bravo 20, smoking cigarettes in your chew, waiting to go hit the weights, do free weights, maybe do some hang cleans while wearing barefoot shoes, maybe Vibram 5 fingers, about to clean your weapon, perhaps, if you're listening right now. Thank you for listening. Hell yeah, out there, GWatt times 10, still killing the enemy, trying to root out terrorism, still to this day. Wow, I can't believe you're still making it. But thank you for listening in Erbil. If you're listening in Nepal, this episode is dedicated also to you. We talk about astrology a lot on this podcast, but before there was this thing called Buddhism, there was another religion or cultural thing called Bone. This is where Buddhism sprang out of, kind of, or Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah.
And in that tradition, they use astrology. They use oracles. They use prognosticators based on the sun, the moon, and the stars.
Omens and signs, animals, weather.
That's what we do here on this podcast. We're in America. We're in New Mexico. We're in the mountains. We have horses. We shepherd horses each day from one place to another. We're living like it's 1100 AD. And we believe that the demons are real. The Vajra is not a metaphorical weapon. It is a very useful, skillful, true weapon against evil forces. And we wield it with gusto against the enemies of the truth. We're against the enemies of truth. And if you're in Nepal or Indonesia or Kathmandu, somewhere in the mountains, in the Himalayas, you might be on the path towards enlightenment. Maybe you're on the Mahayana path, or maybe you're on the Vajrayana path. If you are, excellent. Thank you for listening. Also, Robina Corton, Thank you for listening. If you ever listen, thank you.
We got to send it to her. I think that'll help her listen.
Right.
Perhaps.
Yeah. We, well, maybe you should say.
What?
Just about her,
Yeah, I mean, she's just one of my favorite Tibetan Buddhist teachers. She's an Australian woman who converted, I guess you would say, or she
found Buddhism in her 30s.
Yeah, and her teacher was Lama Yeshe, and Lama Zopa was her other teacher. And I learned about her in 2002. She was one of the first teachers that I discovered. And at that time, there were no podcasts, and it was very difficult to find recordings of Dharma talks. You would have to really search. Mm-hmm. The organization she's involved with, called FPMT, it's the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. They have been really good at gathering and archiving and all this stuff. And even back then, 22 years ago, they had a website where you could download talks, and they were all really crappy quality.
Right.
But I listened to every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And there were a number by her, and then Lama Yeshe and all these others. And then later on, probably, I think it was about 2013, 2014, I got back in her, and she had released a whole bunch more talks on her website. And I spent hours and hours and hours listening to her. But she's a wild woman. And that's why I liked her, and that's why you like her as well.
Yes.
She's crazy and just herself, and doesn't follow the stereotypes of what you would expect a Tibetan teacher, Tibetan Buddhist teacher, to be like, or any Buddhist teacher. And it's been inspirational for us, because we've kind of been realizing that this podcast is Dharma talks.
Right.
We didn't realize that that's exactly what we were doing when we set out. But it is what we're doing, because we are on the path. We're on the Vajrayana path.
Yes. And
we blend Western astrology with Eastern tradition of Tibetan Buddhism and the Vajrayana. And, that's what we're talking about. It's what everything is about, really. When we say the path, really, it's that.
The path that we're on is a triangle. It's like a triangle. It's a pyramid. And we have a concept that we created. And the base of the pyramid is death is no big deal. That's the beginning understanding. One of the sides of the pyramid is be yourself. The other side of the pyramid is do what you love. These are our pillars of the path as we see it at this moment today. And we're learning hour by hour how that relates to our daily soul existence, and how our past lives gave us the opportunity to be born so that we could be on this path that we're on now. And I think the reason why I brought up Robina Corton is that it seems that we need to be ourselves and do what we love.
Yeah.
How do you be yourself? I don't know. I know how to be myself. That's all I can do. And same with Katana. We're being ourselves and just expressing ourselves. And it happens to be that Buddhism and the sacred texts, the mantras, and the concepts are what appeal to us, but not. They just came to us on their own, and we're now trying to understand and get on board with the whole thing, and we're dedicating our lives to it by doing it, putting it into action. We've given away all our belongings. We believe that money is not the goal of life. We seek to have compassion for ourselves and to save all beings. We believe in the Bodhisattva vows. We're not sure exactly how to do it, but we're learning and we're trying. One thing that we keep coming back to, at least I try to, is that I'm not 75 years old. I'm 37 years old, and I have barely in this lifetime come to the be let into the monastery after waiting out in the rain for 35 years. So I'm no master. I'm no ascended master. I'm not a lama. I don't wear robes. I don't shave my head, at least not anymore. I don't have a school or any followers. We don't have a guru, but it turns out that the gurus and the teachers are a part of our thing. I mean, I can't help but be enlightened and on the same path as Lama Yeshe. I watched a talk of him the other day, and he's funny. It makes sense to me. That's enough. That works for me. And if you're listening, the point of this is that if you're in Nepal and you're in the mountains and you're on the path, thank you for listening to this American voice in the wilderness. There's no separation. We understand the whole point and the idea of shunyata and nothingness, oneness, non-duality. And there's no distance between Kathmandu and Galisteo. We're one, and that's just how it is. And if you're listening to this, you also understand. So thank you deeply for tuning in to our little idea of what it means to be alive today.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the horse slave revolt, and it definitely connects to the Dharma thing. But now I'm feeling like talking about this because
I mean, I just said the horse slave revolt. I mean, shit just comes to us all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know. So we're horse caretakers, so we pick up poop in the morning and then we do it in the evening. Fill hay in bags, and we do it for a rich guy. And we're not, we're the like in the old times.
Yeah,
we're like the stable boys, So we often say funny things that are related to those types of things. But we could talk about whatever the fuck we want.
Right. I mean, both are interesting, and I think they'll connect back somehow.
Yeah.
Probably I'll find a way to weave the two together.
Yeah.
Because that's my Sagittarian forte of pulling the threads into one thing. But with the Dharma stuff, I think the interesting thing for us is we're in Santa Fe, and it's one of the Buddhist capitals of the United States.
It's got to be.
There's so many Buddhist centers here, and there's a lot of people that have some passing acquaintance with basic ideas of Buddhism, maybe, or they think they do.
Or mindfulness, the word mindfulness.
With the words.
Yoga pants.
Or they've maybe been to a Dharma center or something. And it's just very interesting to see what the reality actually is and what it's like, because we came from the Midwest. I started practicing Buddhism when I was 20 years old. I did not know anyone that was interested in it. People thought it was very exotic and strange. Nobody knew anything about it. It was not popular at all at that time. And then I was involved with centers and teachers, and I had gurus and took refuge, and I did all the things that you're supposed to do. I got different initiations, and it was all helpful to me at the time. But I think what we're discovering now is that there is a need for a new way of keeping the truth alive and real and relevant, that's not following the way that it's been done,
right?
Even in America. And I think, I mean, Robina's coming to Santa Fe. She has a center here, and she's coming in May, so hopefully we'll be able to meet her. I've never met her, and I think she might agree with some of these ideas. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Maybe we won't find. I mean, she's 80 years old. I mean, I don't know who will see it the way that we see it, but maybe somebody listening will, and maybe somebody in another country will, because I think Buddhism in America has a particular flavor. It's got a strange. It's become strange, and it's become popularized and commercialized, which just kills everything,
right? And
gets things further and further from the truth, of course. And that might not be the same in other countries. So if people are listening in Nepal, it's not as strange there. I mean, it's more directly linked to the old way, but then the old way is just not speaking to a lot of people anymore, because people don't want to be involved in these, you're mentioning bone tradition, and they don't want to be involved in all these things that they don't really understand,
Right.
and all these cultural trappings and things. But then the difficulty is that in America, they've taken some of the concepts and just stripped them of any meaning.
Right.
Oh yeah, there's this book that I have called Buddhist Magic. I'd have to pull it out to get the author's name. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But his point was that when Buddhism came to the West, it was brought over by intellectuals and scholars, and of course mostly men at the time.
Probably non-Tibetan.
Definitely non-Tibetan. I mean, there were some Tibetans that came. Chogyam Trungpa was one of the first.
Right.
There were Japanese. Suzuki Roshi was one of the first. Obviously, they came directly out of these traditions.
Right.
But the Westerners who advocated for it and brought it were scholars and intellectuals, and at the time it was still, and it still is now, very heavy into this rational mind, and we don't want any superstition, and we want pure philosophy. And there's been a lot of Americans like Buddhism because they believe that it doesn't have any beliefs.
Right.
There's a popular book called, I don't know if it's popular actually, I have no reference. And like my sense of what's popular with Buddhism is not like anyone else's.
No.
I've read way too many books. But Stephen Batchelor wrote that book, Buddhism Without Beliefs, basically saying that a lot of things like reincarnation are not essential to Buddhism, which I heavily disagree with. But it's become that. It's like the Western mind just kind of cut everything out of it that they didn't like. Right. And then took the things that they felt. I mean, it does. Buddhism has a very strong philosophy, and it is logical, and you can engage in very rigorous debates in the philosophy of it, and they do that in monasteries. But they also cut out all this other stuff, like the Vajrayana demons. The demons are real, like you said.
Right.
They're not drawings. They're not metaphors. I mean, it's just one example of how. It just feels to me like Buddhism in America has lost its way and has lost its power because it's been taken out of the magical world, and it's not what was intended. It should be connected to the magical world. It should be a doorway into the magical world.
Yeah. The magical world, we talk about this constantly. We're meaning that the magical world is all the things we can't see. Like demons, angels, other beings, our future selves, our past selves, our souls, people who have died, people who are waiting to be born, other dimensions where there's not even humans. This is happening at all times. It's just unaware of the basic level of human consciousness, and I believe that Buddhism and most religions actually initially did not have a separation between these concepts. It was just a part of it. It wasn't like the burning bush was metaphorical, or the visions. They were literally visions of angels coming, actually happening, and like not metaphorically. And this is crucial to the whole point of being able to even step outside of your own egocentric way of thinking about anything. If you're unable to accept angels, demons, other dimensional beings, then you're propping up your ego more, and it's causing you to be separated from the energy of what is happening, which I think has been one of the main problems with Buddhism and all religions in general in the West, is that it's all, people think at least in like Judeo-Christian religions, they're metaphorically going to go to hell and burn. Metaphorically, they're going to go to heaven with milk and honey, streets paved with gold, metaphorically. and that these things are all, it's like a fairy tale, but not believed, you know. So because there's no real belief and there's a removal of that being true, then nothing is able to go in to the actual person to get beyond their ego, because it just goes into their rational thinking mind and fucks everything up. So I think the magical world concept of there's more going on than we can see is vital to the whole ability to be able to even have compassion at all. And because of that, we're in the state that we're in with Buddhism and all other, just at large in society. People think that Instagram is more real than reality. And if Instagram is more real than reality, then reality itself is even less real than it used to be when they created the sacred texts. I mean, when they created the sacred texts at the time, it was hard enough to get someone to destroy their own ego. How do you do it now in an age where ego is glorified to the max? Even in Tibet and Kathmandu, people have Instagram. You know, it's got to be a difficult job. So instead of trying to persuade or propagate more, propagate. Well, that was on that one episode of West Wing.
Oh yeah.
Didn't he say propagate?
Yeah.
That's not a word, but I just said it.
Yeah, it's close to that.
It's propagate.
Propagate. Yeah.
that they were trying to propagate the. I totally fucking lost what I was thinking. Oh,
damn, I did too. Well, okay, I'll say this. It'll probably come back to you.
Yeah, probably.
The ego thing.
Yeah.
And you said Instagram.
Oh, right, yeah. So if there's Instagram in Nepal, then how the hell are you going to even get someone to believe that materialism is wrong, and that they need to that there's more, that their soul is on a wheel of samsara, and that they should pursue the bodhisattva vows, and I mean, that's a pretty hard barrier to break. So I don't know how. I don't know how to do it, and I think that the reason why for Katana and I, why we appeal so much to Chogyam and Robina Korten and Lama Yeshe and Suzuki Roshi is because they're crazy. And they're just being themselves, and they're not dumbing it, or they're not sticking to the rules of what it is to be a Buddhist, or what it is to be a spiritual person. And because of that, it is able to reach more people and do something.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, I'm linking to a lot of things. So the book Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas, I really love the first 100 pages of that book. It's a long book, so it's kind of overwhelming. I think that he should take the first 100 pages or so and make it like a little mini thing.
Yeah.
Because what he does is, he was a scholar of Western philosophy and did this whole historical book previous to that one on the history of Western thought. Then he went from that to Cosmos and Psyche. And what he does at the beginning of the book is he outlines what happened to Western thinking. And basically he makes the case that because of the way science and rationalism and this whole thing just started shrinking down the world to now it's down just to the human ego and the human mind, consciousness.
Right.
So everything else is not real. The only thing that is real is human thinking, because that is what science says.
Right.
You know, nothing outside of what is human is real. The earth is not real. It's not sentient. The animals
everything is dead.
Everything's dead. Everything is lacking soul. And one of his favorite thinkers, who was also hugely influential on me, is James Hillman. Hillman talked a lot about soul, and they came up with this word in soul, ensouling, ensoul, like as an active verb to ensoul something, to put the soul back into the world, and that is what the magical world is. It's ensouled. It is. It's alive. It is. Everything has soul. The material objects have soul. The animals, of course, have soul. The weather, the planets, it's that link that then brings everything back alive, which then allows you to not be trapped in the ego. But when none of that is real, it just gets down to this very small thing of your mind and your thinking, especially if you also throw out before birth, after death, not a thing. No other beings exist. There's nothing unseen. That if it hasn't been proven by science, I mean, what is science? Science is just man. I mean, it's mostly man, but it's human mind. What the human mind can measure and has determined is real. That's a pretty small scope of things. But if you keep coming back to that, how can you destroy your ego if there's nothing else to fall back on? If there's nothing else in the world that's alive, then you have to stay trapped in that because it's too scary. I mean, it's literally death. It's the abyss if everything is dead besides the human soul, or it's not even a human soul. That's the problem. It's the human brain, really. I mean, they don't even really believe in mind.
No.
Because when the brain stops, then the mind stops, according to materialist thinking. So materialist thinking, that philosophy, then links to materialism in terms of commercial materialism, money, which then links back to horse slaves.
Horse slave society.
Which also actually, it links on a number of levels because the horse slave thing is...
I mean, horse slave revolt.
Horse slave
revolt.
Not horse slave society. You're thinking of the...
Wild horse society.
Wild horse society. Because not only do they see us as workers as not really being alive, but they also see the horses as not really being alive.
Right.
The horses, I mean, they're kind of alive, but they're not really sentient. They don't really have thoughts and feelings. They don't really, that they don't view horses that way.
Right.
So therefore, you can delegate the care of your horse to a slave because it just doesn't matter. The horse is an object, and it's not about connecting with your horse or the relationship with your horse or love. It's definitely not about love.
No.
I mean, you don't really hear that at all in the horse world, other than people just being like, oh, I love horses.
Right.
But I think the thing that makes our horses flourish, I was thinking about this morning, looking at their coats, they look really shiny.
Yeah.
And the other horses are taken care of don't look like that, even though I brush them every day and they're getting all these supplements and stuff. And I was like, what is the difference? Love.
Right. That's pretty major.
Which connects back to Buddhism.
Right.
Because Buddhism is about love. Compassion is about love.
Right.
And then that whole thing of what I was saying to you in the car yesterday of, I don't understand this consciousness of how do you hire, quote unquote, I don't even want to glorify it to say hire.
Yeah.
How do you enslave someone to do things for you and to live in a way that you wouldn't do yourself? I can't do that. It's too hard for me to separate myself from another person to the point where I would just be like, well, it's okay for them to have to work 80 hours a week. And it's okay for them that I only pay them $15 an hour or that they don't have hot water in their shack or,
right.
But of course, I would never live that way. Why? Well, because I have money or something. I mean, what is it that they're thinking that makes them not equal?
I think that's the problem with the West in general. You know, when you go to these other countries, obviously in Nepal and in every crazy country, the government is rich. The government of these countries has it all. They own the land. They create fake currencies. They live in palaces. They have cars. They don't have to worry about food. The people that live in the countries are suffering beyond repair. So this is just how it works in this system that the humans have created at this point. If I turn the power off right now and turn the water off, suddenly the prime minister has no power, and the poop picker upper is the same as the prime minister, because the only difference is a false separation that was created by man that is bullshit, that everyone knows. And the reason that they don't do anything about it is because of hundreds of years of oppression and suffering. But I would say I would rather go to the poop picker upper's house for dinner than the prime minister's house. I'll probably be treated better and feel better afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. The system of, I mean, money basically isn't anything at this point. It's numbers on a screen.
Yeah.
So it's even more the case that if you turn off the electricity, there isn't even any money.
No.
There's no banking. There's no, what are you doing? How are you paying for things? Everything is, most people don't even have cash.
No.
So that means the money is gone, and that is the thing that separates people, and creates this, I don't know, why it works. I mean, that's probably a whole other discussion, but we have learned some interesting things in this journey into the horse underworld that we didn't know before.
Right.
I mean, we both you were in the trades, but you were a professional.
Yeah, I was doing skilled labor.
Yeah. And I was also a professional, had a consulting company and worked in the nonprofit world, but neither one of us were slave level workers.
No.
And then we gave away all our possessions and decided to move across the country, completely change our lives, and just take a role taking care of horses, thinking that it's going to be relatively easy. We need to recover from extensive trauma that we've been through.
Right.
It would just be peaceful. We like horses. We like being outdoors, which are still true.
Yeah.
But what we've discovered is that there's still this whole underbelly of, like, what did you call it the other day? You had a name for it. It was not the gray economy, but it was something like that. Call it like the poop economy. Something.
Yeah, something like that. The poop economy. If you are driving to work right now in your car, or maybe you're about to put your sweats on and then your fancy top on and do your hair to go sit in front of your screen to go to work. If you're doing either of those things, there's some other people out there who are waking up at 4 a.m. They're putting on their jeans. They're putting on their cowboy hats. They're putting on their denim shirts and their neckerchiefs and their face coverings and their deerskin gloves and their boots. And they're headed out to physically use their body in exchange for a low amount of American invented fiat currency. And they're going to do this possibly with no ability to have a driver's license, no ability to vote, no ability, not like that matters, no ability to have an address, no ability to have workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, healthcare not like that's real in this country or really anywhere. I mean, healthcare, my ass. But there's these people out there who are scraping the ground with a poop fork each day and calling that their life. And we're in solidarity with them.
Hell yeah.
And we didn't know. I mean, I knew for somewhat. I mean, I was an electrician for 15 years, and during that time, if you've ever worked in the trades, you'll know there's a group of people that do drywall. There's another group of people that does roofing. They're all similar. They listen to certain types of music. This is not a mystery. I knew this obviously, but I didn't know the real underbelly of what's going on in the U.S. Because even that work is better than what we're seeing here in the horse poop economy, the underground poop economy, where people are working, living in Super 8, driving their crappy car to go pick up poop all day for 10 years straight, and then sending their money back to who knows where. This is crazy that this is still happening. And the main problem I see is that the people that are in charge, or that are paying these people to do these jobs, they don't know that there's no real difference between these two people. It's just a happenstance, and that there's going to be a change. I think that something's going to change, and that who will take care of the horses, who will bring the water to the table, who will clean the toilet, who will take out the trash, who will operate the backhoe to dig the hole to put the fucking trash that you brought over to the recycling center. These people are the same as me and you and the prime minister, and we should realize that now, so that if anything ever goes down, which it will, I mean, it's not like we're in eternal comfort on Earth where there's no possibility of failure as a human species. We should just realize it right now that the prime minister and the pooper scooper are one, and that we should just get on the same team and just go for it. We should start playing ping pong together now.
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting experience. It's almost like we're undercover investigators and finding out what's really going on, because we didn't know, and it's not quite the same everywhere. In the Midwest, there are some, but I guess there's still some people that come in the Midwest, clean the barns and stables, and but it's not the same network of like caretakers and this whole thing of every property here that has a decent house on it has a casita, like a little casita, which goes back, literally it's slave quarters. That's where it comes from, I think, which became like a guest house. Yeah. But then now it's still often used as slave quarters. I mean, that's what we're living in right now. So there's like the rich person's house, and then there's a small little house on the property where the staff live. And then people have horses, and they have other people taking care of the horses. This is a whole thing here. It's quite the network that I did not know existed. And it's not really online. There's a little bit occasionally online, but most of this is happening word of mouth, probably because it's a lot of it illegitimate. I mean, they're not real employers. It's still the domestic, it's in like the domestic worker type arena, I guess. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what's happening. And we've had quite some characters that we've encountered
Yeah.
in the last week or two, as we've started looking for a new place to go and
Right.
trying to figure out, really. I mean, basically we've come to the conclusion that we can't be slaves.
Right.
So what does that mean for us? We can't take any option where that's the setup because it just doesn't work for us.
No.
We can see through it, and we just can't. Speaking of Uranus, we both have problems with authority, which is another tie back to Buddhism, by the way, because the guru thing, you know, and the hierarchy and the system. I mean, that was another reason why I pulled away from that was just, okay, that I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to have a guru. It doesn't mean that I am not learning, but I don't want that relationship. I don't want that power relationship. And I don't want to be in a system that has a big hierarchy and all these rules. It just doesn't fit for me with my values. And it's kind of the same thing with this horse slave situation.
Right.
But then on the other hand, we also don't want to participate in banks and mortgages. So, I mean, I guess what we're doing here is just reporting from the front lines of what happens when you want to drop out of the system and you are doing it for a reason, not just a reason of hate and rebellion, but a reason of there's a deeper meaning to our lives and there's a bigger purpose to our lives. And we understand that a lot of these things don't matter. But then how do we live?
Right.
Because there's no setup for that here. I mean, there's no option in capitalism for religious, what is it called when you don't want to go to the army?
Failure to adapt.
Conscientious objector. But the failure to adapt thing, actually, that's excellent because I think that is our problem. I mean, we are not adapting.
No, we weren't able. Since we've been alive, we have not been able to adapt to the system. We've tried it in every sense. We went to school. I didn't go to college, but Katana went to college. We went to the army, the institutions. We've done the workforce, the whole thing, and we have not been able to be crushed down. We haven't been able to lick the boot of our Gestapo. We're able to be alive, but we're not able to be oppressed, and it's difficult. It has been difficult for us in life, but it's been interesting and challenging, and has led us to this point where we believe that what we're doing is worth doing, and that someone has to do it. We have to be proof that it's possible to drop out of the system and pursue a spiritual path. There's no longer a monastery route in the U.S., not in a way that will work for us. I mean, we can't. I'm not going to shave my head again and get a new uniform and join another program. I have already done that, and I have seen that any of those programs turn out to be all fucked up and have lots of serious problems and core issues that are systemic to the nature of the philosophy. So that means, I guess, we're going to have to do it ourselves. You know, this is also the other ethos that we are bringing to what it means for us to be alive is we have to do it ourselves. And doing it ourselves means just not much support and hardly any fanfare. But the thing that we get the most is freedom and peace
and meaning. Yeah, I mean, I think it's another criticism that I've had of Buddhism in the West or anywhere really is there seems to not be anyone very vocally speaking out against capitalism. How could that be? How could that be? I mean, you can't be for non-attachment and then just tell people to go to work and follow the rules and just be a capitalist citizen. I mean, to me, that's dissonant. That doesn't fit together.
Right.
And therefore, there's a problem with following that. And that, I mean, I've listened to lots of teachers and been to many talks and retreats and centers and all kinds of things. And I've never heard anyone talking about this. I have heard people talking about if you change your attitude about your job and you just accept your karma with humility and you do these, and fine, there are places where that is appropriate, but also what is going on planet Earth at this moment?
Right.
And what do we need to do if we are awakened beings and we're striving to be awake? We have to find a different way to live.
Horse slave revolt.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we can link into any of the stories of the people that we've met.
We're on a path. We're on a journey right now. We've been evicted, basically.
Yeah.
We've been fired and evicted, if you wanted to say the truth of what's happened, basically. And we're on the path to try to figure out what the fuck we're supposed to do. We don't know what to do. We signed a contract, and now the contract's over, and we got 3 months to figure out what to do. It's not that as easy as it sounds. But in that process, we've tried to come up with some way to do it. And through that process, we've met some fucking wackos.
And we're in New Mexico.
We're in New Mexico.
The land of the wackos.
There's freaks everywhere. Everywhere we go. Somehow there's people that are operating hundreds of acre ranches with multi-million-dollar properties.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening at these ranches. There's no one there. There's no guests. They're completely deserted, dilapidated, deserted, all weird.
Yeah.
And we've went to a few of them so far to try to take a look and see if it was possible for us to maybe live on one of them or maybe set up some sort of horse deal on others. And we found that there's some weird ass shit going on in New Mexico that I did not know about, and it seems to be a trend. I don't know where these people came from. They're not New Mexicans. They're from some other state or country, and they've bought up hundreds and hundreds of acres of New Mexican land and are trying to capitalize the fuck out of it, but it doesn't look like it's working that good. But they still have it. It's strange, and we've met crack smoking army supposed army veteran. We've met a totally strange non-denominational guru,
the Chinese guru.
A non-denominational Chinese guru.
Yeah.
When we were there, we figured out that we may have been giants. Now we have giant friends who are on our path. Thank you. Thank you for the giants who are helping us. Thank you. We've met, seems like there's another one.
Well, along that road.
Yes, there's another stretch of, the whole stretch of the area that we're at is very crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it's happened, but hundreds of acres by in the desert, deserted, operated by strange freaks. It's really odd.
Yeah, and a lot of these places are pseudo spiritual,
right,
something, but they don't actually. They're not anything really.
Right.
I mean, that's the non-denominational is a generous way to say a complete phony. I mean,
right.
Like there's like Buddhist pictures on the wall. Then there's some Kabbalah painting And then there's crazy murals and statues. I mean, nothing makes sense. There's no clear way in which any of this is connected. And when you talk to the people, you can tell that they actually don't know anything. And when I made different references to like very obvious Buddhist things, there's no response from someone that has Buddhas everywhere.
Right.
You know, it's weird.
Yeah.
But it's obviously they're phonies. I mean, they're what would you call it? They're like
shysters.
I mean, but shyster is about, which is of course like a not good word to say about Jews, right? I mean, isn't it?
I don't know.
I mean, that I think of like people like, I mean, it is that.
Katana is a Jew.
Yes, I am. Trying to like get money, you know, but it's more like I don't know.
Charlatan.
Yeah. Yeah, like fake guru, fake healers.
Yeah.
And then people, because it's New Mexico, I mean, this is the danger of the whole thing of commercializing these spiritual concepts. Like, oh, we have yoga here, and we have healing, we have meditation and healing.
We have yoga, we have sound bowls, we have spiritual rings where you sit in.
Labyrinths.
We have labyrinths. Right. We've got alpacas, we've got goats, we've got dream catchers.
Oh yeah.
We've got Kabbalahs. We've got Tonkas. We've got bells. We've got trees. We've got Chinese symbolism that no one knows exactly what that is. We've got very freaky statues made of marble, imported.
Right.
We've got fountains. We've got. But the main thing they don't have is the truth.
Or people. I mean, there's no one there most of the time, which is weird. But yeah, they definitely don't have the truth. And
right.
I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Really. But what I do know is that when we've gone to these places and talked to them about different things, they clearly want slaves. They want you to be the slave. And they just have been operating that way, obviously. And they have all kinds of various setups for living arrangements, like you can come and live on the property in exchange for work, but the living arrangements are shitholes.
Would you like to live in a very, very poorly remodeled horse barn or horse stable from the 1940s that was remodeled by a non-working supposed Tibetan monk who's somehow living in the U.S., very unclear how. Would you like to live here? I know we have 7 to 9 multi-million-dollar beautiful structures that are completely deserted, but maybe you would like to live in what used to be a rat hole. I think this looks good for you. I think this would be great for you. And then a salary. I don't know.
There's no salary.
About a salary. As long as you just have to work 40. Just wake up at 4 a.m. every day, work all day long till the sun goes down, and then after a few years of that, we'll take a look. Maybe you can move to the
upstairs of the rat hole.
Maybe you can live in the bunk bed of the loft of the rat hole after a few years of slave operations. Also, I need you to totally redo my whole property and bring in $1 million donors. I need you to do everything. But I mean, this is a great deal for you.
Right.
I don't see why you're not calling me back. I mean, I don't understand why no one comes over here. I don't get it.
Or the guy who is like, well, I just want you to know that I'm an alcoholic and I have anger issues and I almost punched someone in the face last week, but do you want to come live here?
Yeah, well, I think you should live here full time.
Yeah. Why don't you live in the same house as me? I have a house that has like 4 or 5 bedrooms and 1 shared bathroom. I think you could live there. What do you think about
that? This is the truth. This is our life. Some people might censor themselves and not expose the truth to the world. But if you're listening in Nepal, you need to hear the truth. If you're listening in Minneapolis or in Raton, or if you're in somewhere, you need to hear the truth of what's really going on. I mean, we're alive and we're not afraid to tell what the truth is.
Right.
There's some weird ass shit going on in the U.S. And it needs to be at least known about somewhat, so that people don't keep falling into these traps of slave work and being used. I think it's coming to an end. We're coming on this Uranus Jupiter conjunction, and I believe that this whole way of life, this whole consciousness of whatever has been going on is going down, and we're going to have to figure it out together. I know that we will, but that doesn't mean that some people are going to be really butthurt about it.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. I mean, if you're used to having slaves, it's going to be a rude awakening to not have them anymore. And I mean, I think the interesting thing, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things. One interesting thing to me is that capitalism, that because you and I have said we don't care about money, we don't want our lives to be about money. We tried that for a while, and we reached the ages that we are. We're not that old, but we're also not kids. We gave it a shot, and we even got mortgages, and we had houses and cars and
I've gotten
credit
2
cards. I've only had one, but we did all that. And then we've decided we don't want our lives to be about money. Because we've decided we don't want our lives to be about money, we have instantly lost status in the capitalist system. Now we're slaves. Never mind the fact that we're highly intelligent, extremely well-educated, very skilled individuals that are talented at a lot of different things. It's completely beside the point. The point is, because we gave up our material belongings and our money and our striving for money, we're now worthless in this system. Of course, we don't feel that way, but that is how it is. And I think that's why people don't want to do it, which is why it's phony to say I'm a Buddhist, but I'm not going to give up my attachments to anything, or I'm going to meditate on giving up my attachments. I'll just imagine that I'm giving it up, but I'm not actually going to do it. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. You're not on the path if your life is about making money. Buddhism is not something that you can fit into your lifestyle. It's not an accessory. It's not something that just makes you look cool or sound cool. It's not something that's going to make it easier for you to tolerate your boss because now you're mindful. I mean, mindfulness is nothing. Mindfulness is not Buddhism.
No.
Mindfulness is, I mean, I don't remember who said this. I think one of the original teachers, that even a thief, it might even be in Shantideva, that a thief has to be mindful.
That's true.
Mindfulness is nothing. It just means focus. It just means awareness.
Right.
You have to be very mindful as a sniper as well.
You do, actually.
I mean, that's not a Buddhist job.
Bras, breathe, relax, aim, squeeze.
So, saying mindfulness means nothing. It means I'm just trying to be cool, or I'm trying to look like I'm calm and I've got my shit together. Point being, these two things can't coexist. Capitalism and Buddhism don't go together.
No, they don't. And I believe that we're going to see the end. I think we're people have said this for a long fucking time, but I think we might be possibly going to witness the end of this whole thing.
Yeah.
We might be standing on the deck as the tsunami smashes in to the land. I don't know, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good as far as what's been going on and what is still going on.
Yeah.
And if we pretend like it's not going on, it's not going to make it easier. If it does happen, we should just get on board with it. Let's get a part of it and be prepared for the awakening that is happening, and not resist. This is the whole thing of the medicine. You got to take the medicine. Just take it and suffer. I mean, number one rule, the first truth is suffering. What is the actual words? Do you know? The first noble truth?
Yeah, the truth of suffering.
The truth of suffering. I mean, that's it. You should get to that. Start there. And if you can start there, you can at least be slightly primed for pain when it comes, because it's coming. I mean, fuck. Go outside. Go anywhere. Talk to anyone, and try to pretend like that's not what's happening out there. I mean, people are doing rough.
Yeah.
They're doing rougher than they used to be, and even rougher than before we were born. And,
oh yeah, for sure.
You know, it's not looking good. But that's no need to despair.
No.
You know, you don't have to get all freaked out about it. You don't have to cry, or maybe you do have to cry. Maybe all you have to do is cry for the next few years. But what you should or could do is just accept it, and go with it, and feel what it is to be a part of the truth, because it will start to remove all the barriers that you have with yourself and others and all the other beings that you can't see, and make something be something.
Yeah, and this is where the Vajra economy comes in. That the Vajra economy is already there.
Right.
It's just waiting for us to participate in it. Same as the magical world. I mean, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's the ability to connect and interact with the universe, with other beings, with the earth in a way that's based on love. That's not based on greed, extraction, exploitation.
Right.
And the laws of the Vajra economy, the way that it works, well, karma is one of those things.
Right.
You know, that there are other ways to relate to other people, to ourselves, to the environment, etc., that only require you to just step out of that mentality and open yourself to what is already underneath.
That's an excellent way to put it. And I think if you're listening to this now in Nepal, you can step out, and you might already be out if you're listening in Minneapolis or Santa Fe or anywhere else on the globe, or maybe you're a flat earther. If you're listening anywhere else on the flatlands, then you can step out. You can be free. You can be, like the song from the 70s, free to be you and me. It's possible. And the only requirement is the truth. The truth is blasting you each day, multiple times a day, thousands of times a day, and you're just denying it. Stop denying it, and you can feel it and go with it, and things will probably start to change really fast.
I was just thinking maybe I should read some of that piece I wrote about Vajra Warriors.
Okay.
Because what we're describing is spiritual warfare.
All right.
It's not possible to do what we are saying without embodying the energy of a spiritual warrior, of a Vajra warrior, because it requires a lot of you.
Yeah.
I mean, it requires a lot of courage, and it requires not Buddhism light. It requires full on, I'm on this path.
Total war.
And I believe that it's real, and I know that it's real, that it's the truth, that this is not a metaphor. This is not a tool for decreasing stress while you go to your shitty job.
This is not for the weak or faint-hearted.
This is about liberation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does liberation mean? Liberation doesn't mean I'm a happier slave.
No.
Liberation means I'm free. You can't be free while you're continuing to be in that mindset.
Right.
I don't know where I'll start. Let's see. Okay. I'll just start here.
Please do.
So this is a piece I wrote last week. I created something called the Vajra Warrior Award. And my first recipient of the award was Derek.
Thank you.
But there will be future recipients as well. To find hope, love, meaning, kindness, compassion, and courage to continue to live while staying on the battlefield of the Saha world is spiritual warfare. The Vajra Warrior is the one wielding the indestructible weapon of truth, which can destroy all delusion. The Vajra Warrior steps over mangled corpses and marches forward towards the light. This spiritual hero, the Bodhisattva, searches for the living in the bleak landscape of the dead, joins hands with them, and continues on. The Vajra Warrior fights using whatever weapons he has available to him, whatever the situation calls for. Sometimes a vicious attack, sometimes dark humor, sometimes a loving embrace, sometimes a deep wail of pain. Vajra warriors fight for aliveness and for truth, so they can do this using different techniques, whatever inspires them and those around them to wake up, to feel fully alive, to challenge lies, to feel love. These things can become weapons of the Vajra warrior. We each have access to different weapons, but all require of us a few fundamental qualities in order to be effective. We must have the courage to face the truth about ourselves, our lives, what is happening in our world, and the fundamental truth of death. We must be willing to endure suffering, to be uncomfortable, to keep going no matter what, to not give up, to not expect to be coddled. We must uphold a code of honor, to know deeply within ourselves what is right and what is wrong, to act with integrity, even if it means we will face mockery, rejection, or loss. We must be willing to sacrifice our own temporal happiness, our belongings, our sense of security, our egos, being right, being comfortable. We must understand our true purpose, which is to save all beings in the Saha world, beginning with ourselves and extending to the animals, the earth, and the entire universe. We must be willing to let go of our old ideas, of the approval of others, of our beliefs about ourselves and the world. We must be willing to die completely in order to be reborn as a warrior. The qualities of a Vajra warrior are extremely rare in the Saha world. They have been driven out of modern society by the hidden demon promising happiness and fulfillment through conformity, materialism, and complacency. If we do encounter a Vajra warrior, we should rejoice in our good fortune and be grateful for the positive karma we have built from previous lives that has led us to this meeting. There are Vajra warriors hidden among us in different disguises. They appear at first glance to be ordinary people, or perhaps ordinary horses or creatures of another walk of life. But they are far from ordinary. They are possessors of the priceless diamond heart, which has been forged by immense pressures of suffering, of pain, of loss, of grief, and turned into an indestructible light of love. The Vajra Warrior Award exists to acknowledge these spiritual heroes among us who are holding together the fraying fabric of our humanity with their own two hands, who have fallen into the rotting muck of the battlefield many times and have stood back up and continued on, without applause, without support, without recognition. There are few who can even see these Vajra warriors as they walk through the battlefield. Their presence is invisible to most, but felt by many. For those of you Vajra warriors out there fighting the good fight of aliveness every day, we want you to know, we see you. We know what you have been through, what you are going through, how hard it is to keep going, how much it hurts. We know that aliveness has cost you everything, that your heart has been broken countless times, that the grief has nearly drowned you, that you have clawed your way back to the surface with all your might. We know that no one seems to understand what you are doing, why you are fighting this battle, or why it is important. We know that at times it seems hopeless and you are unsure if you can continue. And yet, if you are a Vajra warrior, you do continue. You have no choice because you have burned all the bridges behind you so the enemy cannot cross. You have no home to return to. It was burned too. Your friends have died or been lost to you. You have no map for the territory you are now in. You are out of ammunition, and storm clouds are gathering above you. We see you. We know because we are there too, deep in the battlefield, wielding the Vajra, waiting desperately for backup to arrive, searching for a safe place of refuge to rest and recover. We see you, and we appreciate deeply what you are doing for all of us. We Vajra warriors may never gain recognition in the Saha world. It, by definition, cannot understand what we are doing, but we can recognize and honor each other.
Hell yeah.
Soha.
Soha.